Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nick Espinette, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Today, we are joined by Amanda Lewis. Amanda is the founder and CEO of Louie, which is a dental group. I'm going to let her give you a little more detail about what she does with it. She's a dentist, has been building practices for several years. Amanda, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. I'm glad to have you. Can you let our listeners know a little more about you and about Louie?
Sure. So Louie is an oral health and wellness company focusing on bringing products that care for the smile out of the somewhat stale and boring beauty aisle and meeting consumers where they are. We do believe that this is an evolution in smile care that can lead to the beauty aisle, that can lead to the on-the-go nature that people's lives have. We eat and drink and do things all throughout the day that hopefully are allowing us to put our best smile forward. So we want to make sure that you're integrating smile care into that. My journey started as I graduated from dental school. My journey started way back in Northern Illinois where I grew up, but I graduated from dental school in 2004 and fairly quickly by 2006 had bought my first practice. It was fairly small in a smaller town in the middle of central Illinois. I grew that to a couple different practices with a couple doctors over the course of about 15 years and ended up selling that in the process of doing dentistry and bringing people on board. I continued to learn and elevate my actual clinical practice to bring the best quality of care that I can. It gets harder to do at a larger level. I had gone through a divorce personally, and I was just looking to move out of that small area. It's not where I was from. And I had an opportunity. I moved to Dallas, bought a small practice, and really kind of refined my craft to bringing it all back to this little 4-person operation, very high quality, high-end dentistry, comprehensive treatment planning. And I feel like I was about at the pinnacle of how I could practice, and I had learned a lot. I had developed some products a few years before that, had sort of tried to get it off the market and had done it under a different name, a company called Between. And then Louie started to evolve when I was moving down to Dallas and in Dallas. And I decided to make the big push to bring Louie out again and really try to bring a couple of the items that I had conceived and patented or worked on patents for to market in the beginning of 2020. So that was a great year.
Yeah, I mean.
So that year is really when I started my transition down to Dallas and then ended up moving by the end of that year. So in 2021, I was full-time there, working on this kind of boutique elevated clinical practice while still wanting to start Louie. I had become fairly decent at running dental practices. That was something that was in my wheelhouse and I knew. However, product development and growth of a consumer product good was something I was unfamiliar with. So I struggled to continue to do that. And I was getting the stronger pull that I wanted to move into that space. I was hesitant to do so. In late 2023, I was talking to somebody, a practice broker, and he was like, yes, you could sell your practice for X amount of dollars. And it was a lot more than what I had put into it and invested.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is my sign to do it. But I had for my entire career, I'd always clinically practiced dentistry, save the very few weeks, the very short maternity leaves that I took with my 2 kids. So I was kind of hesitant to do it, but thought maybe this is the right path for me, because if I don't try to start this product line with all of what I can do, I'm afraid I won't. I'll always wonder what would happen.
Sure.
And then my mom very unexpectedly passed away. And that kind of gave me the kick to go, I think you have to try this. She always told us growing up that her opportunity was to be a nurse or a teacher. Her family went to college. That's what they did. But those were the only 2 opportunities that she said as a small, from a small town in Iowa that she would be able to do. So my thought was, I have to try this and I have to give it a couple years to see if I could launch it. So the beginning of 2024, I sold my last dental practice in Dallas, and I started working full-time on Louie. So it's been definitely an uphill battle. The first year was just like trying to get refined products and packaging and getting things where I wanted them really didn't even come online until pretty much the fourth quarter of that year.
Oh, wow.
So there's just product comes from overseas, getting all of the supply chains. In my initial try to relaunch of the company in like 2021 into 22, the patented items that I had been manufactured overseas. I was with a bad actor who took my tooling and ransomed it. And I just made the determination it wasn't worth paying them to get it back.
Oh, that
so
stinks.
then needed to find new suppliers and decided to go forward with that. But again, now we're retooling things, which is an added cost in the upfront.
Sure. And time.
Yeah, working
Money
with
and
the
time.
manufacturers. So moved through that. Last year was kind of the first year we started putting one foot in front of the other, really getting back onto Amazon, getting our footprint set up on the things we were talking about before we went live, the fun social media channels, trying to get out there and talking to the consumer directly and setting up our website, and then starting to talk to smaller retail providers. So in January of this year, we just went live with our first regional retailer, which is the Central Market Group. So
nice.
Yeah, right there in Fort Worth. You got
like H-E-B. Yeah, we've got one a few miles from my house.
Yeah, so we're very happy with that, and we have continued that march into retail through this year. Have a lot of meetings lined up, getting ourselves on a couple of other marketplaces strategically, and we're really, I'm at this point refining some of what I'm doing with the business, because in my estimation right now, it's really hard to get through some of the noise of social media, of AI, of ad space, of spam blocking on email to directly reach a consumer. And there is a drive of a consumer to physically look at and touch new things. So opening those retail doors, even the smaller ones, is really a turn that we're making as we enter into this year. We're still going to be on Amazon. We are on Walmart Marketplace, but I'm really going to pull back on a lot of that direct to consumer because of really honestly how expensive it's gotten, how driven it is on influencers that want to be paid to post something that you have no idea if it's going to make a sale. And it's all about, getting name recognition. But those things, we're just, again, trying to make our funnels down to just a couple of lanes. And really Amazon is one of those levers that we're pushing at as we turn into the summer, because as we move with our retail partners, they want to see a level of success as we move into a first round of investment. They want to see a level of success, and we've decided to funnel all of that into one place to give us the best chance of showing those results and then turning them into our next stepping stone of growth.
That's awesome. What a great story to go from building successful dental practices to getting to start. It sounds like you're on the path to a successful product marketing and product creation. What is something that a lot of in both those areas, dental school, dental practice, and then getting products out there, lots of competition. What's something you feel that sets you apart from some of the others who may be trying to do some of the same things?
Some of my background in let's see, I always kind of talk about, I've been a long distance runner basically since I was 7. I did my little first 1 mile fun run with my mom, and then ran a lot with my dad in high school and competitively even started into college very briefly because I did dental school in a shortened period. So I had to do some of these things. And so I wasn't able to run in college for very long. But when you go on a long distance run, you go out and maybe, you kind of get a side cramp or you pull a muscle, you have to get home. Yeah. I grew up before there was an Uber that you could call. I remember running with my first anti-skip CD player, you didn't have a phone that you could always get home. So you had to keep going and just sort of put your head down and go, all right, let's do this. And so going through school, it's not an easy thing, but I also realized that it's okay if you fall down, because I have literally fallen on a run and gotten back up and kept going. So that is a very literal representation of something that I feel like it had a big part of my life. And in dentistry is, it's really changing. Like, that's a whole different topic. It is going in the direction of, my dad had independent pharmacies his whole career. There used to be independent physicians.
Mm-hmm.
There still are independent dental offices, but there is a very high conversion into corporate run. And a lot of that is because dentistry is a very successful business model. It's constricting a little bit because of the technology that's involved and the investment that's required to really practice at a high clinical level. But it is still pretty easy if you are good at what you do and you're nice to people. Little business skills, sometimes not even very much.
Sure.
You can become a successful dental practice owner. Multiple dental practice ownership does take a little bit more effort, but knowing that I was going to be okay that I was okay with that did well for me in these earlier part of my career. When I made the switch into this, I realized, hey, if this doesn't work, I know I can go back and be successful at that. But I also, it took kind of stopping and looking at myself in the mirror and going, you're going to have to do this for a couple years and you're probably not going to be very good at it. You're probably going to have some ups and some downs. And that is 100% been true, because it's been about 2 years now, starting to really see some traction and growth. But it was hard. It was hard going from doing something that I was really pretty good at and made a good living at,
and probably a consistent paycheck or income of some sort.
Doing something where I have literally no payment. It is my investment that has caused this to move forward. And we're just getting to the stage where I can start to say, all right, now what I'm putting in, we're starting to bring back. But it's a whole different ballgame because of timelines. Or you put a product to market. Let's say you get a retailer who's interested and they say, yes, we want your product. We're doing this right now for holiday. So then we're going to make that product. We're going to ship it to them by September. I will have paid for all of that product. It hopefully gets placement in October to November, whereas that company will have 60 to 90 days to pay me. So in this time where you get this order and you're like, woohoo, I got an order and it's big and yay, that's great. I will be 9 months before anything hits my bank account. So rolling
that's
through
big
those,
carrying cost.
Yeah, it's you really have to be a little bit more prudent with some things can look like big wins, but when you go back and you look at the math, it might be something we're not ready for yet. And the last thing you want to do is enter into that and not be able to fulfill and to really meet that retailer or that partner with the level you should to be successful.
No, what a great story. And I love the analogy to the running and falling down, because that's a common theme with other entrepreneurs or successful business people. You got to be okay with failing, because if you're going to push get out of the straight boundaries, you're probably going to fail. And you got to be okay getting up, dusting yourself off, and keeping running. If you're running, one time I used to run a lot more, and I lived in Galveston way before cell phones, and I stepped on it. There was like a piece of a car on the road I didn't see, and I rolled my ankle like 2 miles from home, and it was school was out, so I couldn't even, if I would have made it to a payphone, call somebody. But yeah, that brought back that memory of like, that stunk having to get back home on a gimpy ankle. But what you're saying is running, falling in any business, it's the person that can get up the more times than they fall down that's going to be successful. Because if you're doing something that's pushing the boundaries a bit, you're probably going to stumble. And so what a great story and a great analogy to running. As you've been going along through your journey, do you have any books or other podcasts, other things you like to turn to that have helped you to get through some of these hard spots or challenges you've had?
Oh man, I have read. I spent so much time in my early years clinically reading to become a better dentist, which is fairly dry. And then I transitioned from that to basically reading children's books and trying to keep my eyes open after that. And then I did transition into reading some books about entrepreneurship and overall success. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, those kind of basic books I will look back on. There are 2 books that one of them I actually just took in to my son's 8th grade class because I think it's so good at all ages. And it's called The Go-Giver. Very short read.
Oh, yeah, I've read that.
Very, very easy read. But I took it into them to say, all right, you guys, I gave them all a copy of it. It's like they're graduating in less than a month. And we had a little discussion around, all right, what are these 5 things? What does it mean to do that at your home? What would it mean to do that in school? Because this isn't just about business, it's about learning to be a successful person. The other one that's kind of a little more out there is a book called The Alchemist. And it's more of a kind of life story journey about your path changing and really your perspective of your path. And again, that's another one of those shorter reads that I think is still a good.
I've heard of that book. I haven't read it. I need to. I bet it's on my wish list. I quit buying every book I heard because I were stacking up. But now with Amazon, I do the.
Oh yeah,
to my wish
my
list.
cart on Amazon probably has $100,000 worth of stuff in it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There's the Celestine Prophecy. I would just so highly recommend that one. That's another one that's a bit more about, I guess, the spirituality, and one of the things is there are no coincidences. And so some of these people you meet on your journey, or you meet and you wonder, why did that what was that? That was a coincidence that happened. It just causes you to pause and go, or was somebody trying to tell me something?
Mm-hmm.
Am I, what a little bit more of what is your purpose? Not super spiritual, religious, or trippy or anything like that, but definitely more on those lines than just a straightforward business book.
And that's great, because I think that comes back to the, if you fell or fall down, having the mindset of things happen for you, not to you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, yes, I had a failure or a setback here, but what can I learn from it and improve going forward, instead of, oh, this is just a sign that I need to give up and quit. And so that I think maybe it's Ed Milet or somebody I've heard talk that says things happen for you, not to you. And if you approach things like that, it really helps you overcome those challenges and hurdles that you come across.
The first accountant that I had when I started and bought my dental practice, I was 25 or 26. I was pretty naive. It was my dad's accountant that he used for his businesses. So I was like, great. I remember a couple things about my interactions with him. The first was getting to the end of that first year. As I rolled in, I hadn't paid any taxes. I was like, I don't know. I'm running a business. I'm not making tons of money. I had a loan that I took out to get to buy the dental practice. So I was making my loan payments, and I'm like, sweet. And that had included some working capital to get started, because I had to wait for patients to pay me and things like that. And I had a company credit card that, like, in my ledger, I would just write down credit card payment, and I'd be like, there you go. So I turned all my stuff into my accountant at the end of the year. And he's like, what are these credit card payment things? And I'm like, well, I paid the credit card. He goes, yeah, but you have to itemize what you did. I'm like, what? And he goes, when you reconcile your checkbook? I was like, huh? And so that's how bad it was. So my first year of doing taxes was like, oh my goodness. Like, I made it through that. I made so many mistakes that first year. It was crazy, but I still did it. And then he's also like, okay, you owe this much money. And I was like, oh, is that in dollars? I'm like, I don't know that much money. I still have the same amount in my checking account. He goes, yes, but you've paid down your loan. That's income. I'm like, but I paid my loan, And so it was just learning those things along the way. So that is some of the things that, really helped me again, the other thing that can be good at, be humble. I needed to learn that. I didn't know that. Some people go into things thinking they know everything, especially
being able to say you don't.
Age. And it's like, well, I didn't at that age, but I am 47 years old now, and I'm learning things every day. There are acronyms in this business that I know nothing of what they are. I'm like, what is that? And I just have to ask. So those are
being able to know that you don't want to be the smartest person in the room, so you can always learn. But that comes back to something with younger people that I've learned, because before I got into real estate, I was a physical therapist, but had zero business experience. So especially once I moved in the real estate world, I encourage young people, if you're planning on being a dentist, a doctor, a lawyer, or a plumber, take some basic business classes at the very minimum at your local community college, so you have some basic understanding of finances. And because it's, I mean, just like you coming out of dental school, I had a friend that was
nothing.
They don't
teach you anything.
A friend that was a physician, or is a physician, and he had one of his office people stealing from him because, he's focused on the medical side and not paying attention to the numbers. They ended up figuring it out. But, if, could a little bit of business so he could at least see the numbers and say something's not lining up here. So I highly encourage everybody to at least take a finance class if you're getting a professional degree of some sort, or if you plan on doing a trade. Take a finance class at the local community college so you understand and can eventually run your own business.
That early scaling where I started off with 4 employees, then it was 5. I did my own payroll. Then I balanced my own checkbook. I did all of that for the first year. I didn't, because I didn't know what I was doing. I still did payroll. But I did that all the way through my first 13 years of practice until I was up, because I had like 20 employees. I had multiple locations at that point, owned the buildings that they were in, all of the stuff. And it was just, I wasn't getting home until 10 o'clock at night. And my accountant, I had a main accountant and a bookkeeper that were dental background people. And she's like, I can do that for you. I'm like, what? You can hire a payroll company. I'm like, I can, so it was but I would never trade in those years of doing that because of what I learned, because of my ability to hold money back or to hold things back. Because I didn't know tax implications. I didn't know what my, unemployment insurance was going to be until it was forecast for the next year. Things like that.
That's great stuff. Well, it sounds like things are going really well, and I want to congratulate you on your path. And as a lot of entrepreneurs start seeing success, they start thinking of other ways. Because right now, every dollar you make, pretty much you're putting in. So, people start thinking about outside investments or alternative investments, either stocks, bonds, or even real estate. Is that something you've thought about or have considered? And
I considered real estate a bit. My thought was, if there was a place that I knew I always wanted to go and be there a lot. We were just out in Marfa this past weekend. I don't think we're ready to pull the trigger on that, but because prices, honestly, they're pretty inflated. But looking for a dip in the market to where it may make sense somewhere to buy a property, have it as a rental, or even a short-term rental, Airbnb, that we could still have enough cushion in it to manage it, especially if that could be a cash payment. And then that money coming in, you're not worried about if you don't make it back. So that is one thing. I have traditional investments in stocks. I do have a little bit that's in a few assets that are in gold and in crypto, just because
just different things.
Interesting.
For sure. That's the crypto side. I'm like, we'll put some there and just see. It's almost like a gamble.
It's definitely the money I have in there. I can lose. There's been some fluctuations in it where it went way up, and I'm like, oh my, look at that. But then it went way back down.
Drops back down. So that's one of those things. Like, let's put it there, and 30 years, 40 years from now, see where it's at. If you're watching it, you're going to have a lot of indigestion.
I got on a point where it was doing a lot, and I was like looking at it going, this is interesting. But then I just, I was like, no, it's not enough for me to really be concerned about. It would be beautiful if it ends up with something amazing. I think I don't know enough about that to be someone who can predict it.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things like, let's try a little bit over there and just kind of hope. And if we lose it, I'm not going to die. And that's awesome. Well, it sounds like things are going well. And as we're wrapping up the interview, what exciting plans and initiatives do you have in the next 6 to 12 months?
Well, as we enter into retail and have talks with larger retailers, we are looking at some packaging changes to try to allow for that entry. So that's been back in the design thought, because I designed things a certain way, the way that I wanted them, how I thought they would sit on shelf. But then when you start to get into those, there's some redesign. But I'm also looking at one of the biggest things in my recent last 2 years, like since I made this departure, I had a double jaw surgery to help with my airway, facial growth and development. That's been a big part of the latter part of my clinical practice. Seeing myself in some of the issues that needed treatment, that's a decision that I made. One of the main parts about that is nasal breathing and taping your mouth shut. So we're coming out with a Restore Ritual that's some mouth tape. And then we're also formulating a microbiome-friendly series of products that will be Smile Serum, a microbiome friendly breath freshening spray. And those are things that'll be coming out in the next year. So that's always exciting to kind of have a bend that blends both beauty and health, and really seeing the consumers that react to it and looking at how they respond to these innovations and how retailers look to include them as well.
That's awesome. The book, have you read While We Sleep? Or no, The Oxygen Advantage was the one that talks about
I don't know that
breathing.
I have, but I'll have to write that. I've read Breath by James Nestor is one of those books that
he references that book, but
Okay.
it talks about the mouth breathing, even going back when Europeans were exploring, that the natives would, like when their
Yes.
babies were sleeping,
Yes.
would close their mouth to get them accustomed to sleeping. But it goes through all the studies on mouth breathing.
I still tape my mouth shut every night. And
See,
probably a lot of people are happy about that, but
my middle daughter was a snorer, and I paid her. I was like, give it 30 days. And she was probably 9 or 10. She'll probably kill me for saying this, but none of her friends listen. But she went 30 days. We paid her the money. 31st day, she took it off, back to snore. I'm like, no. So, but she ended up having her adenoids, tonsils, and something else out. And once she healed from that, she was a different kid. I just don't think she had ever slept a good night's sleep.
That's
in her
most commonly missed thing. And what people don't realize is, especially at those young ages, expansion and making the mouth wider, making the bony housing wider in kids is so important. Directly,
the functional orthodontics versus
traditional.
I know we went through that study.
Yeah, there's a lot of traditional orthodontists who don't believe it, but the research is just overwhelming. So I just went through all that with my daughter. She's actually in a pretty big expander to get her to where she needs to be, because I don't want her to be me. Not that my surgeon wasn't great, and it's great to feel this way, but I waited till 45 years old to realize what it was like.
Sure. I can't express the difference. She went from being not very energetic to being a kid that's ran a marathon before she was 18. She's just on the go all the time, just getting stuff done. I mean, it took her a week or two to recover from the pain of the surgery, but it was like almost overnight.
There's a book about ADD and ADHD and how they're overdiagnosed when sleep disorders are underdiagnosed. And there's a huge connection between those. So I always, before I'd ever put my kid on any kind of medication, be that allergy medication or ADD, ADHD, they should definitely have a sleep study.
No, we're in the same boat, because it's like, I mean, I assumed she had sleep apnea, but we went through the dentist we use here in Fort Worth is more holistic. So he's the one that we went down that path. So it was great. I mean, we encourage people, go at least explore this before you get on a lot of medication. And because she just, it stunk for about a week. I felt so bad for her. She was in so much pain after the surgery, but then, it's great for her now.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great learning about what you're doing. And I just encourage anybody that wants to know more to reach out. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to make contact and to find out more about your products?
Sure. The easiest way to find us is either online at mylewie.com. It's MYLEWIE.com, or it's at mylewie on Instagram. We are fairly active on those platforms. But yeah, I'm happy to, I look at those, I look at those all the time if people make comments on either platform. So
awesome. I encourage you to reach out if this is something you're interested in, and be sure to like and share this episode. And thank you for listening, everybody. And Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really enjoyed getting to know you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.